Hello everybody, welcome to judycentral.com online classes for law exams. So today I will be discussing with you a very important editorial written by the current Chief Justice Mr. N.V. Ramana, and this expression or the editorial has been published on the Indian Express on Friday, July 2nd, 2021. So let us see the title first, and later on we will be dealing with the questions based on this editorial. So the title is Rule of Law versus Rule by Law. The former is what we fought for, the latter is an instrument of colonial rule. That means we have fought for rule of law, and rule by law is an instrument of colonial rule, of the British rule. In fact, of a pandemic, it's important to reflect on how the tension between the two defines the quality of justice. So this has been a very important editorial and has been doing much rounds in social media and also in media. So let us understand this. So first let me zoom in. Let me zoom in more. Yes, I think that would be enough. Yes. When talking about rule of law, it is necessary to first understand what the law is. Law, in its most general sense, is a tool of social control that is backed by the sovereign. However, is this definition complete in itself? I would think not. Such a definition of law makes it a double-edged sword. It can be used not only to render justice, it can also be used to justify operation. Renowned scholars have therefore argued that a law cannot really be classified as a law unless it imbibes within itself the ideals of justice and equity. An unjust law might not have the same moral legitimacy as a just law, but it might still command the obedience of some sections of the society to the detriment of others. So, in this para, actually the author is not convinced with the definition of law that it's a command of the sovereign, but he actually emphasizes that unless it imbibes within itself the ideals of justice and equity, that's not a law. Then what is clear is that both these thoughts highlight certain facets of what is meant by the term law. I think that any law backed by a sovereign must be tempered by certain ideals or tenets of justice. Only a state that is governed by such a law can be said to have the rule of law. So this is the quality of law, and if a state have all this quality in its law, then it is said to have that the state has a rule of law. The British colonial power used the law as a tool of political repression, enforcing it unequally on the parties with a different set of rules for the British and for the Indians. It was an enterprise famous for rule by law. So rule by law has actually been applied and used by the British colonial rather than rule of law, as it aimed at controlling the Indian subjects, because it is used to control the Indian subjects, and this is the reason why it was known as rule by law. Our struggle for independence thus marked our journey towards the establishment of a state defined by the rule of law. A framework was needed to ensure this, a framework that forms a binding link between law and justice in this country. That is what we the people of India gave ourselves in the form of the Constitution. So Constitution is nothing but is also known as a rule of law, or say the Constitution that forms a binding link between law and justice in this country. More than 70 years down the line, the entire world is facing an unprecedented crisis in the form of COVID-19. At this juncture, we necessarily have to pause and ask ourselves as to what extent we have used the rule of law to ensure protection to and welfare of all our people. I do not intend to provide an evaluation of the same. Both my office and my temperament prevent me from doing so, but I began to feel that this pandemic might yet be a mere curtain raiser to much larger crisis in the decades to come. Surely we must at least begin the process of analyzing what we did right and where we went wrong. Although the author is reclusing itself to comment on the the administration of the government, but still by this the editorial, it is trying to throw some light, some realities about how the rule of law has been performing all these years. From within the perspective of legal positivism, many conceptions of rule of law have emerged. It would be relevant to emphasize four principles. So there are four principles of legal positivism from which rule of law have been emerged. The first principle is that laws must be clear and accessible. The people at least ought to know what the laws are. There be secretive laws, as laws are for society. Another implication of this principle is that they should be worded in simple, unambiguous language. The second principle relates to the idea of equality before the law. This is the second principle. An important aspect of equality before the law is having equal access to justice. This guarantee of equal justice will be rendered meaningless if the vulnerable sections are unable to enjoy their rights because of their poverty or illiteracy or any other kind of weaknesses. Another aspect is the issue of gender equality, which has been included in the second principle of law. The legal empowerment of women not only enables them to advocate for their rights and needs in society, but it also increases their visibility in the legal reform process and allows their participation in it. Bias and prejudice necessarily lead to injustice, particularly when it relates to minorities. Consequently, the application of the principles of rule of law in respect of vulnerable sections has to be necessary to be more inclusive of their social conditions that hinder their progress. So, the author is trying to say the rule of law should be more affordable to the vulnerable sections of the society, and so that their social conditions can be improved. This leads me to the third principle, the right to participate in the creation and refinement of law. This is the third principle. The very essence of a democracy is that its citizenry has a role to play directly or indirectly in the laws that govern them. In India, it is done through elections where the people get exercise their universal adult franchise to elect the people who form part of parliament which enact laws. In the 17 national general election held so far, the people have changed the ruling party or combination of parties 8 times. So in the last 17 general elections, so people have changed the party of 8 times, by 8 times. In spite of large-scale inequalities, illiteracy, backwardness, poverty and alleged ignorance, the people of independent India have proved themselves to be intelligent and up to the task. The masses have performed the duties reasonably well. Now it is the turn of those who are manning the key organs of the state to ponder if they are living up to the constitutional mandate. It has always been well recognized that the mere right to change the ruler once every few years by itself need not be a guarantee against the tyranny. That's very true. That even if we change the ruler once every few years, that doesn't guarantee against the tyranny of the government. The idea that people are the ultimate sovereign is also to be found in notions of human dignity and autonomy, because people is the people of India is the ultimate sovereign. A public discourse that is both reasoned and unreasonable is to be seen as an inherent aspect of human dignity and hence essential to a properly functioning democracy. As Julian Stone observed in this book, The Province of Law, elections, day-to-day political discourses, criticism and voicing of protest is integral to the democratic process. So, as in his book, The Province of Law, Julius Stone has supported that if all these conditions are present in a state, all these conditions is actually integral to the democratic process. And if one of them is absent, then obviously the democratic process is not free. The idea of the judiciary as a guardian of the constitution brings me to the fourth final principle, the presence of a strong independent judiciary. So this is the fourth principle of legal positivism, or say the rule of law, the presence of a strong independent judiciary. The judiciary is the primary organ which is tasked with ensuring that the laws are enacted are in line with the constitution. This is one of the main functions of the judiciary, that of judicial review of laws. So judicial review of laws is a main function of the judiciary, and by this only the court puts a check on the acts of the government. The Supreme Court has held this function to be a part of the basic structure of the constitution, which means that parliament cannot curtail. The same, the power of judicial review cannot be taken away by an act of the parliament. But the importance of the judiciary should not blind us to the fact that responsibility of safeguarding the constitutionalism lies not just with the courts. All three organs of the state, that is the executive, legislature and the judiciary, are equal repositories of constitutional trust. And also one thing has to be remembered, that judiciary, the responsibility of safeguarding the constitution doesn't lie only on the shoulders of judiciary. All three organs, that is the executive, legislature and judiciary, have all equal roles. Then we'll move to the next para. The role of the judiciary and scope of judicial action is limited, as it only pertains to facts placed before it. This limitation calls for other organs to assume responsibilities of upholding of constitutional values and ensuring justice in the first place, with the judiciary acting as an important check. For the judiciary to apply checks on governmental power and action, it has to have complete freedom. The judiciary cannot be controlled directly or indirectly by the legislature or the executive, or else a rule of law would become illusory. So to sustain the rule of law in any state, it is very important that the judiciary should have the freedom, should have the complete freedom to apply checks on governmental power and action. At the same time, judges should not be swayed by the emotional pitch of public opinion, either which is getting amplified through social media platforms. Judges have to be mindful of the fact that the noise that's amplified is not necessarily reflective of what is right and what the majority believes in. So judge needs to have his personal mind to decide what is right and what is wrong. He should not get amplified or should not get convinced through the social media platforms. The new media tools that have enormous amplifying ability are incapable of distinguishing between right and wrong, good and bad, and the real and fake. Therefore, media trials cannot be a guiding factor in deciding cases. It is therefore extremely vital to function independently and withstand all external aids and pressures. While there is a lot of discussion about the pressure from the executive, it is also imperative to start a discourse as to how social media trends can affect the institutions. So in this para, the author is actually criticizing the working nature of the media and the media trials, and also says that one shall not get swayed by the information which has been spreaded by media tools. Because nowadays there is no, the media is not distinguishing between right and wrong, good and bad, and the real and fake, and therefore it cannot be a guiding factor in deciding cases. The above, however, should not be understood as meaning that judges and the judiciary need to be completely disassociated from what is going on. Judges cannot stay in ivory castles and decide questions that pertain to social issues. That means judges cannot stick to only the important point, to only the important issues of social in nature, but it has to be a very wide nature in deciding cases. The oath we took to perform our duties without fear or favor, affection or ill will applies equally to governmental and non-governmental entities. The ultimate responsibility of a judge is, after all, to uphold the constitution and the laws. So this is the ultimate objective or responsibility of a judge. I am taking the liberty to quote in Telugu Mahakavi Gurjada Apparao, a great poet and reformist of the 19th and 20th century. He said so and so in Telugu, which gave a universal definition to the concept of nation. He said, a nation is not merely a territory. A nation is essentially its people. Only when its people progress, the nation progresses. So with this, he is concluding the editorial. And now we will be discussing the questions which are based on this editorial. So let us see. So now we will deal with the passage based questions on the editorial we have just now read, and let us see what are the kinds of questions we may expect from this kind of editorial. Question number 1. According to the author, a law cannot be classified a law unless, we have already seen it. Option number A, unless it imbibes within itself the ideals of justice and equity. Second, according to the author, a state can be said to have the rule of law. This is option number A, if the law backed by a sovereign have certain ideals or tenets of justice. Third, the framework of rule of law that forms a binding link between law and justice in this country is this option number. This is actually option number B, Constitution. This is not option number A, we the people. This is option number B, Constitution. Question number 4. Arrange the 4 principles of legal positivism in correct order. So we need to, so all the 4 principles what we have seen just now, we have to rearrange it in correct order. So which comes first? So the correct option is option number A, 2, 1, 3, 4. Law must be clear and accessible. Then second, equality before the law. Then right to participate in the creation and refinement of laws. And last, the presence of a strong independent judiciary. Then fifth, the book Province of Law has been written by, this option number B, Julius Stone. Sixth, what is essential to a properly functioning of a democracy according to the author, this option number T, a political discourse that is both reasoned and reasonable. Then seventh, according to the passage, the role of judiciary and scope of judicial action is option number C, is only limited. 8, for the judiciary to apply checks on governmental power and action, it has to have option number A, full freedom. 9th, the last, according to the author, the ultimate responsibility of a judge is option number D, all of the above, to uphold the laws, to uphold the constitution and the laws, to uphold the constitution, all of the above. So this is the end of the slide, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. Do not forget to give a like, share and subscribe to the channel. Till we meet the next time, thank you. Have a nice day.